Welcome. This is Leading with Spirit, the show that gives you an in-depth look at topics like what it takes to navigate your spiritual journey, how to heal yourself and grow your spiritual gifts, and balanced practices to expand your business and your spiritual leadership. I'm your host, Spirit Bird, shamanic teacher, healer, and author, here to guide you on your journey to becoming your most potent spiritual leader. Does it ever feel like you have to work harder just to get the same results as other people? Did you know that this is actually an opportunity for ancestral healing? Are you curious about ancestral healing? Or maybe you've been doing your inner work and inner healing journey for a while and have touched on some of that and understand that there's always opportunities to go into new layers, go out further. Or maybe you're just on one of those layers right now and it's up for you. I want to share with you a sneak peek inside Shaman School and the rhythms and healing process, what that looks like when you're going through it, and also give you a glimpse of a really big layer that's up that you might be able to heal in yourself right now. And I'll be sharing more about that soon. So I'm going to walk you through pretty much step by step what this process looked like while being in Shaman School for a month. And it began with the theme of ancestral work. Each month inside Shaman School, we change our focus on what our theme is based on what's actually present for the group and wanting to be healed for the group. So while there's some structure in place and some standard practices that everybody learns, there's also this really important live personal component that allows us, again, to get really personal with what's actually happening for the group, what's actually happening in the world. So it really weaves beautifully in and out of this piece of structure with this kind of piece of flow and presence. So ancestral work was up. And when I take on new students, the first thing that they do when they get into Shaman School is learn how to journey. And we dive right into a journey if they already know how to do that. We begin each month with that work as well. Something that's largely skipped over in so many shamanic programs is shamanic journey. And this to me is really the heart of this work. This is the sincerity of the work. This is where you actually learn to work directly with the spirit realm and interlace shamanism with your life. And if you have a spiritual business, with your business as well. And it's also something that's largely not taught in other programs. And I find that for most people, they might not realize that this is what they're craving. Most of the time, they don't have words for it. But when they start to use it in their life and see how to actually weave shamanism into their life and their healing work into their life, they realize that this is the thing that they've actually been longing and actually been craving and didn't have the words for. Anyway, that being said, so we begin the month with a journey to speak with the ancestors or to learn a teaching about the ancestors or what's ready to heal in your lineage. So I also practice this alongside everybody while I'm holding them. And during that first initial journey, and I'm going to be very, very specific because I think that it would help to demonstrate what this whole process looks like. So understand that, especially at the beginning of a process, you will likely be getting clues for things that you don't understand yet and don't really make sense. And this is why I want you to stick with me through the whole process, because it's going to come all the way back around and land. And suddenly that initial seeing that I had in my journey that didn't make sense, that I very easily, what I was picking up intuitively, I very easily could have decided that I thought it was wrong. I very easily could be like, oh, that didn't make any sense. I'm not doing this right. And again, this is why I want you to follow me all the way to the end to see that you can actually trust that information that you get during journey. So I was asking to work with the ancestors and, choosing to do a journey for ancestral healing, specifically asking to see a gift. And during the journey, what they showed me, what the spirits showed me, was this split in my system. And it really showed up literally as this line in my body. For me, that was a little bit relevant because I am often curious about what I would call the line. I'm curious about that line between, when you actually cross over into being bad, right? Like if everything, there's not good or bad, and there's also like you can't actually murder people, you can't actually do like these terrible things, right? And where is that line where it shifts from maybe looking bad to others to actually being bad? I'm always curious about, the line between where I end and where spirit begins. So I have lots of questions about what this line is, where it is, And so to have spirit show me the line in me was very interesting. I did not understand how it related to the ancestors. But I continued with the journey. And the information I was receiving was from some of my star being teachers. And so again, I trust them. And even though I didn't understand what the line was, with that question that I went in, show me a gift from my ancestors, they showed me that line. And for me at the time, the best that I could do to make meaning out of that was to see that line as an anchor here in the 3D, as like a way that my self could be here present in my human body and on this earth. And I knew that there was more to it. I didn't quite know what. I didn't even really know what questions to ask yet, but I've been through this process over and over again. So I just trusted the information, made note of it. Then over the next week or so, I really started to track a theme that was coming up for me. And the theme was, this is one that goes in and out of my life all the time, but it was around worth. And for me, I think the question for me was around feeling compelled, like feeling the story that I have to do more to basically meet or match up to other people of my caliber. And I knew that this was a story. Like what that looks like is that, I have to do what this looks like is that I have this belief that I have to do like more posts to have the level of intensity or having the level of being seen from other people doing similar work. Or another way the story could show up or how it might show up for you is that you need to have like things look more professional. You have to try harder for things to look more professional. Or this could look like, feeling like you need to change the way you look or change your clothing so that you can look more spiritual or look more serious. So these are just some of the ways that they might show up. For me, that was the one piece that I was looking at. I knew that it was a story I was carrying, and I knew it wasn't true, but I could feel it kind of running in my subconscious, and being like having this little small effect. Like there was like a little layer of that in and underneath some of my actions. So I was aware that it was there, and it was time to look at that. And so then I had done some inner work with myself. I did some healing sessions with other people. And what I actually ended up discovering is I found one of my little ones. I found an inner child version of me that was kind of trapped in this hallway. I can't remember how old I was. It might have been like 4th or 5th grade. It was definitely like early puberty. And I remember my mother doing her job and needing to stop me to be like, hey, you smell bad. And so again, stick with me through this whole process because there's going to be multiple layers in here, and I don't want you to miss any of it because it's going to be like by the end. So when I was initially looking at this story, all of a sudden I was really trying to sit with this little one. Okay, who is she? What does she need? What happened for her in this moment? Not to dwell in the story, but just to get some more information and complete this or bring some healing here. Well, I noticed when I actually sat with her in that moment where those words were delivered, that hurt and they were confusing. And she had showered and she had put on deodorant and what was happening here, right? And so in that moment, I actually saw a split go through her system. I felt two very distinct reactions. One was anger. And for me, where that anger went was at the system. I'm actually mad at the system that there's these structures in place that make just regular human behavior wrong and bad. It doesn't make any sense, and I'm mad at that. The other half of me, the other part of that split, went into confusion. I don't understand. I actually did all the things that I was supposed to do, and it still didn't work. And went into kind of this mind place, like where that confused energy went up and into trying to figure out what was going on. And also trying to basically undo what was just named for me, trying to undo the fact that I might have smelled bad. Look, I'm still a little sensitive around it. Tried to undo the fact that I smelled bad. So in this split, this is the two places that my energy went. One went sort of down and like misdirected the anger towards something else outside of me that wasn't related to me, that wasn't my doing, that I was not responsible for, had no authority in. Right. So that's where part of my energy went. The other part went up and into basically trying to like figure out and undo the truth. So that's a lot of energy misdirected. And of course, my little one, doesn't realize this is happening. Of course, your little one in these moments is doing the best that they can. So it's important in those moments to not shame or punish them for whatever reaction that they had, but actually just be with them through it. But again, there's more to this layer. And I want you to stay with me on this, because that piece of information I just shared around giving your little one what they need, like a lot of people in the healing world teach this and know this. So that is not new. That is not new for most of you as listeners also. But I want to show you like the next stage, because again, it goes deeper and further. So this little one, I see the split. And so again, starting from my initial question, what are the gifts from my ancestors? The first piece brought me awareness of the split. I couldn't quite see how it related as a gift, other than, again, just the surface level thing is like, okay, well, it helped me land here, be present here, like actually anchor here on earth. Secondly, I see where the split shows up in this childhood memory. And also just kind of reinforce that piece around, okay, well, while that split doesn't serve me anymore, it served me at the time, in that it also helped me stay anchored here and in this world and in the 3D. What I also noticed from the second stage of this work is it was like, I was starting to notice that although my reaction sent my energy out and kind of split me, I noticed this third thing that was happening, which was this piece around how I look and my hygiene doesn't feel entirely mine. One, I'm a little kid. So most little kids don't really care about that. And if they do, it is because they're picking up on something that their parent is presenting. We're teaching them, right? And again, that's important to some extent. It is important to teach your kids how to function in the world we have. And, if you have a lot of attachment to how important that is or what it's supposed to look like, we can kind of lead them, off from just like a healthy, just understanding society into this place where it's like distorted. So I was like, this doesn't quite feel like mine. And I followed the trail, and I actually followed it through my mom's lineage. And then it landed where I know that they grew up fairly poor, this big Polish Catholic family. And then all of a sudden it hit. I was like, oh, this piece is my ancestral lineage from the Polish part of my family. This piece is actually, Polish people get a lot of jokes around being dumb. They get a lot of jokes around their hygiene and the way that they live. And there have definitely been times, as with most cultures at some point, where they've been ridiculed for who they are culturally, right? And honestly, it's surprising now because when I say it now, it's like, doesn't that seem so obvious that that would be a lineage piece that I might need to undo? But it really hadn't, because for me, I didn't really feel connected to that sort of shame thread within my lineage. I knew it was a joke, but it wasn't something that I felt affected with directly. So I didn't see how it's still in my DNA, that it still came through that lineage, that ancestral path. And then all of a sudden I was able to put this piece into practice. Aha, here it is. Here's that ancestral piece that I've actually been inquiring about, but didn't know what it meant yet and didn't know where it was going to come from. And now it's here. So in that moment, what I ended up doing is, instead of trying to cut off that part of my lineage or cut off that story or undo it, make it not true that they've experienced that, I thanked them for the gift. The gift of, this split, the gift of this line in me. I thanked them for the lineage that they carried, both the gifts and the shadows, right? Both the places where it might have shown up as a burden to them. I also just thank them for carrying that, right? And actually, in my healing process and in my journaling, and also, through a ritual that I did shortly after I got that scene, where I took a moment and called them in and acknowledged specific pieces and acknowledged the seeing that they were showing me and thanked them, right? So from here, it was like, okay, it feels like there's still something's not complete. Like, this is the ancestral piece that I'm working, but there's more, right? So as I continued, I end up through that month, I happened to be hosting a plant medicine ceremony. And for me as a facilitator, I am never like fully in process where I need to be held, but I am always processing some layers alongside the group. That's for me, how my medicine works, how I move things forward, is I help locate where the thing is that wants to be healed right now, or wants to be seen right now, or wants to happen. And I go there for myself. That is what opens the doorways for the other people in the ceremony. This is how I work in Shaman School too. This is how I work in individual sessions without plant medicine. So, so at one point during that ceremony, my little one comes back up. I notice that one in the hallway again. And so it takes me a while. Like, I notice that it's really hard for me to be with her. It's like I can kind of see her for a second, but it's blurry, and like distractions come up between me and her. And so it really takes a lot of effort for me to like clear those distractions and come all the way back to her. I was like, man, there must be something here. There must be like some serious trauma or story or something else that's here, if it's this hard for me to even see her or be with her. And so I'm kind of trying to come back to her. And while I'm having these glimpses of her, I'm just trying to check back in, like, hey, little one, like, what's going on for you? What are you experiencing? What do you need right now? And I was trying to actually locate, like, what is the core? What is the essence of what she experienced in this moment? Like, I saw the scene with the line, I saw the piece with the ancestors, I saw the anger, I saw the confusion, but like, what is underneath all of this? What is actually happening underneath? That's like really the core essence of what made all of this other stuff come out. And when I finally sat with her, I finally saw and could name, This is embarrassment. This is what's happening here. Embarrassed. This is my embarrassed one. So from there, I did what I normally would try to do again for that first layer where it's like, okay, what do you need? What's happening for you? What can I change in this scenario to help through your healing process so you're not this wounded one in me that acts out of reaction, or, that's where that connection to that little layer I was talking about with the worth comes in. That piece from my ancestors, that piece from being embarrassed, feeling like I need to work harder to cover up those parts of me is how it shows up in my everyday life. And I know it's not true. This is the source. This is where it all came from. And this is the process of undoing it. So as I was watching her and asking these questions, and again, distractions keep coming in between me and her. There's all these layers that keep adding up. And I was starting to get frustrated. I was like, oh, like I'm trying to just like reinforce the hallway because it feels like it just keeps wanting to fade away and I don't want to let her go. And so I'm like, it shouldn't be this hard for me to be with her and to see her. Spirit, can you help me please here? Medicine, can you please help show me what I should do here, how, to work with this piece? And Spirit was like, we're trying to take her from you. You don't need to hold her anymore. And suddenly I realized, oh, I see what this is about. Actually, I've done that inner work where I narrowed in and saw her. I did the initial healing stage where I was with her, saw what her reaction was, and like worked with her on it. I did that next layer out with the ancestral work where I could see where it was coming from and healing that layer around that. And now Spirit was like, you did need to see her. Obviously, I did need to have her as part of my story so I could function in society, right? So she was someone who kept me safe. And now I don't need her anymore. And so what actually was happening, what I thought was happening was that I was having trouble being with her. But what was actually happening in Spirit was like, you've seen what you needed to see, and now you don't need to hold on to this story anymore. Not because she was bad or wrong, not because I needed to cut her out. I need to cut out this piece of me that's embarrassed so I don't have to be embarrassed anymore, but just because she's not needed. She actually doesn't need to be coddled. At this point, she doesn't need to be healed. She just needed to be seen, and now I don't need her anymore. And it doesn't mean that I will never experience embarrassment. It just means that that story no longer holds me down or prevents me from taking action. It no longer is a layer that's like woven in very subtly to actions that I take in life. And the real process, of course, isn't the piece around finding her, around healing her. The real process was that piece of letting her as also the painful part of the experience. This is why we so often need to be held by other people. Letting go of these parts of ourselves can often be very hard to do alone by ourselves. And so in that moment, I mean, I don't know how long it was, but 10, 15, 20 minutes could have been longer. I just really surrendered and let go and let Spirit try to wipe her away from me. And crying, it's like a grief, it's a mourning, it's a loss of a piece that was very much a part of who you are. And I don't need it anymore. And I'm making the choice to let her go. But also that choice isn't as easy as, okay, writing a few affirmations that I'm not embarrassed anymore, right? It's like that being really present with the experience of her being taken away from you. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be a fight. It doesn't have to take years, right? It just takes the actual process of being with that experience and the grief that comes along with it. And when you can be present with it, then this letting go can actually happen very quickly. And shortly thereafter, it turns out that I really needed that piece and to let go of that piece to really step in to this gift that I had of knowing this gift that I had as a facilitator. And I needed that layer to be removed to support me in the next piece that I was doing in the group, that was very required and very powerful, right? And so this is where it all comes back around, where we started with asking for a gift from the ancestors with Journey, where it looked like, okay, I got some information, but this doesn't really totally even make sense. I'm not even sure what this means. To, here is the story that's related to what's happening. To, here is the thing that needs to be healed, and also the ancestral piece that is ready to work. And from there, choosing to, honor the ancestors and honor that experience. And then eventually getting to, again, that core, the piece that was actually underneath all of this. It almost, to me, like when I tune into the energy of how that works, it's almost like there's that like root, the base of the tree that's feeding off of something. And that's what I would call the what's really the essence, the core of what's created this entire tree, where all of this other stuff has branched out, where it's become part of me, where I was in the anger, where I was in the confusion, where it was affecting the actions that I was taking in life, all of this stuff, the ancestral, all of it were all branches from this one core piece. So following that trail actually brought me to that core piece and the depth of what it actually was, right? And also, fortunately, I've been doing my work. So even though I still require coaching sometimes, even though it still is work to be with it, I do understand how to be with those pieces and have that trust and spirit to allow it to move in the way that's going to support me the most. So this is what it looks like to go through one of those processes. And this is just a glimpse of what a month in Shaman School would look like as well, as we follow that thread, as we enter in with a question. We start each month with a question and with a journey to find out more information. And then from there, we dive into some of the details, that first layer with the healing, with that like first layer of healing and who or what is actually happening here. And then we get to go into 2 more deeper layers where we actually get to release that or facilitate someone else releasing that in the deepest way at the core. And then we start it again the next month. And each time you gain more tools. So you as a facilitator, as a healer, get to develop a higher level of how to do this, how to walk somebody through it, and actually let them be a participant, right? So if you haven't listened to other podcasts, one thing that's extremely important to me, as a spiritual guide and as a shamanic teacher, is that you understand how to help other people find this for themselves. Not that there's a right or wrong way to do healing work by any means, but for me, I noticed that when I can actually let the client be part of the experience, their results are way better, just way better and much faster. So better results. But 2, I also feel it's important to dismantle this idea that the healer is somehow like more powerful or better than the lay person. And so this is threatening, I know, to some people because they want that. They want to be seen as better than or more powerful than. But for me, when I read the energy of what's wanting to happen in our world right now, this does not serve that. And it doesn't mean that it will never come back around and be important again sometime. But right now, it doesn't serve that. And for me as a healer, I find that it's also important that I dismantle that story in myself. So what I love doing is teaching people how to be that, how to still be able to get your needs met, still be able to show up as a powerful individual and share your healing work with the world in a way that feels good, in a way that pays your bills and then some, right? And it's important that we also do that from a place where it's really empowering for our clients. So this is all part of what you learn in the process, and it's really beautiful. And each month, more layers come in. So you develop more awareness, you develop more skills, and you're able to do higher level things faster each time. It's really fun and really incredible. And of course, you're healing your own process and your own journey throughout the entire program. And in the end, after this question and after this process, I am seeing it in my life already. I keep getting reflections from people that say that I'm looking really clear. I keep getting reflections from people that Even just single things that I'm posting or sharing here and there are getting a completely different response than I did a month ago. And it seems like things are coming out with much more ease and clarity and requiring less intensity and less explanation. And I'm just getting better results, right? So here is the benefit of what it looks like in real life from that one question. Thanks so much for joining me today. Have you been hearing the call to expand your spiritual gifts and step into your next level of conscious leadership? If you're a coach, healer, or a spiritual leader, you can learn more about Shaman School and growing your spiritual business on our website, holtonhealingarts.com, or send me a DM at Holton Healing Arts. Welcome to today's Member Query episode, where we explore questions about spiritual paths, intuitive gifts, growing a spiritual business, and shamanism. Do you have a question for us? Send us a DM at Holton Healing Arts. This question is from Rachel in our Leading with Spirit Facebook group. And the question is, how do I find my true calling and gain confidence to follow through with it? And finding your true calling is more about putting yourself in experiences than it is about like sitting back and trying to figure it out. And especially when it comes to spiritual work, there's a place where, approaching things from the mind can be supportive, but that's not what we want to lead us. So finding your true calling often looks like following those inner nudges, those urges to join different groups or be in different places, or even go to yoga at a certain class at a certain time. This is what allows us to have experiences that actually reveal what our true purpose is. And then when you start to see that, the confidence starts to follow that naturally. And as you continue to lean into following those nudges and seeing those experiences arise, your confidence continues and the cycle continues. And this is what allows you to really step forward on a clear path with confidence. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Leading with Spirit. If you did, please share the link for this episode with your biggest takeaway, tagging me at Holton Healing Arts. It would also support me if you subscribed and left a rating and review of the show so we can support more people living their highest purpose. Until next time, journey on.